going to, like, that was my goal. And I'm like, okay, it just kind of kept me on track. And then instead of sitting on my phone for an hour at night, scrolling through Instagram like I normally would, I pick up my book, I've moved my phone charger to the other side of the room so that I have to physically plug my phone in before I get into bed, and then I read for an hour. And that's how I've been able to fit things in, is kind of work out the efficiencies in your life. If you're noticing that you're spending half an hour scrolling through Instagram whilst you're walking on the treadmill in the morning, instead of that, take a book with you or listen to a podcast or something like that, and combine two things that will really complement each other.
I've got a great rule with phones in the gym. I just put it in the locker.
100%.
Right, and like Jade's slowly starting to catch on to that, because you actually save a lot of time. Yeah.
But it's the only time you have to yourself, really, before the chaos in your life starts.
You do need to clear your head, and that's what we use exercise for. It's a form of therapy.
Definitely.
Getting back to, I think, with why you implement all of these habits and what motivates you, I think it's more so how big your purpose is. Right? Like I've seen, for example, Mark, hasn't done a physical transformation because he always looks great, but he's done
so many compliments.
But in terms of mentally, what I've seen out of Mark, right? Because this podcast is about not just about physically changing yourself.
Totally.
It's about mentally changing yourself, and the progress that I've seen out of Mark in the last how long have you been with us, Mark? Over 12 months, just over 12 months. Where he's been at mentally to where he is now, and I've forced habits onto him, because he didn't know, he didn't know what to do, right? And I've forced habits onto him, like the reading, for example,
totally
logging the inefficiencies, right? So you can fill that in with things that are going to make you more productive, right?
Yeah.
But just in a 12-month period, which isn't that long, like we all know 12 months just goes like that.
Totally.
Right? It goes so quickly. And the improvement that this man has made is unbelievable, right? So you think about that, if you compound that over 10 years, like I just told you about my transformation, which is back in 15, which is 3 years ago, right? And that's where I really started to take off. So when I turned 30, that's where I started really going hard with personal development, my training, physical training, mental training, everything, right? Education. And what I've done in the last 3 years, I've actually impressed myself. So if we think about the reason why what gets me up every morning is the purpose, right? It's the purpose behind it, because that purpose far outweighs any stress that you have in your life, and it just gets you up off your ass and it gets you going, right? And I think you had a greater purpose than just looking good.
Totally. And I think that's the biggest misconception in today's society, especially with the fitness industry, as you said. I find it so ironic, and I will rant for days about the fact that it's called the fitness industry, because there is not one person in that fitness industry who can run fit. They're not physically fit or physically well. They don't look after themselves physically.
But they look fit.
They look fit.
Yeah.
Aesthetically.
They look fit.
Aesthetically, but fitness-wise, if you look
On
up the
inside,
definition of fitness, it's not looking fit. It's being, aerobically fit. And I find that to be the biggest misconception, is that a lot of the times people can get so caught up in going, you must have a routine to be successful, and using the word routine and throwing it around and saying, it needs to happen, you need to have a routine. And I found, being away with work for the last 5 weeks, I've not had one day off in 5 weeks from physically working. And for me, routine, when it's thrown out the window, the thing that's left is habits, not routine. And I think so many people can misunderstand or misinterpret the word routine and being, I need to set myself a routine. I need to get up in the morning. I need to, set myself, I need to make coffee. I then need to do this. And they need to have that routine. But what I find is when that routine is thrown out the window, they're then sitting there going, fuck, what do I do now? And for me, it's not so much routine as it is habits, and setting yourself those healthy habits that will help contribute. Because then, regardless of your routine, because as you know, no 2 days are the same, you'll try and have the same routine every day where you'll try and incorporate your gym and your eating well. But that's not routine, that's habit.
I love that, because habits are a thing that are very hard to implement as you get older,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, you know, Mark's good friend Ty Lopez, for example, he targets people between 18 years old and 25 years old. The reason being is because it's easier to teach these people habits between 18 and 25. From 25 onwards, right, it's harder to change.
Totally.
So the only way these people learn from 25 onwards is through pain and trauma. That's how he explains it, right? So people who, for example, form bad habits when they're younger, then they go to 25, lead an unhealthy lifestyle, and they get to 30, like I did, right? And wake up and go, oh my God, like, I'm fat, I'm unhealthy, I'm unfit, I'm not happy with myself, I need to make a change, right? And it took me to get to that point, right, to go, right, what do I got to do, right? So those habits now are easier to kind of maintain because I'm still in, you know, my early 30s, right?
Totally.
But imagine for someone who gets to, say, 45, 55, who hasn't seen a gym before, right? And then all of a sudden, their wife leaves them or their husband leaves them, right? You know, they're not healthy enough or fit enough to play with their kids or whatever that breaking point is, right? When you get to that breaking point, that's where you've got to form those new habits. But sometimes it can be too late because that breaking point, if it comes at such a late... We never like to say it's too late, right?
Yeah.
You can always change your habits, but it's harder.
Totally. But it's also harder to maintain a habit. And that's why you see so many personal trainers offering 8-week programs and 12-week programs. But my whole purpose and what I don't ever take someone on for a short period of time. I'm there for the long haul, like until you pretty much drop dead, right? Like I'm there to change your life. And whether you're paying me for not, whether you're paying me or not, I'm there to support you that whole journey, right? Because the thing is, for 8 to 12 weeks, it's easy to keep a habit because you go, oh, there's an end date. But then what happens is, you know, people have been following this religious program for 8 to 12 weeks.
The body adapts.
Their body adapts. They see changes and they go, woohoo, I can go back to my old ways. And they haven't learned anything because they've not been making any decisions for themselves. They've been following this book for 8 to 12 weeks and they've pretty much followed it like a puppy, and then they've got to the end and they've gone, now what? And they haven't learned anything. So what I'm all about is educating people so that they don't need an 8 to 12 week program every 8 to 12 weeks, so that they can, you know, I've just been away for 5 weeks and all my clients received a program, but it's programs of exercises that they've done before. And what they've done is I didn't give them a schedule, I gave them their week and I taught them to map it out, because that is a healthy habit. By planning your training sessions, they're committing to it by putting pen to paper. And it's not giving them a schedule, but outlining to them the basics for them to make the decision on their own.
Yep, I love it.
So you, just to take it back a step, right? we're talking your business.
Yeah.
Right? So you mentioned your clients and what you do for them.
Outside
and
of my 9 to 5 job.
What is your business and what do you do?
So I have been for a while training clients, educating clients, and I find that I'm so much more of an educator than I am a trainer, because I feel like trainers now, you know, people are so hesitant to go with a personal trainer because it's a money-making scheme.
And that's the easy part, right?
Totally. The easy part, you know, you can do your Cert 3 and 4 and just cruise through life, and that's what 99% of trainers do. But what I feel is a huge gap in the market is that education process around teaching people so that they don't need a personal trainer. Because what happens if they get up and move to LA? You know, what happens if, you know, they can no longer afford a personal trainer? Because then that goes by the wayside and they're back at square one.
Yep.
So for me, I have clients that I train outside of my 9 to 5, and I put 9 to 5 in brackets because no job really is ever 9 to 5 if you love what you do. So Monday to Friday, and for the last 5 weeks as well, I've been away with my normal job, which is in marketing and events. And then outside of that, I write programs. I have face-to-face sessions with my clients, educating them about how to create that healthy lifestyle, and lifestyle being longevity until pretty much you're gone. until you no longer exist. So it's about maintaining those healthy lifestyles, and really teaching people the things that I've learned over my transformation, and then also listening to them as well, because there are so many other and new problems coming through all the time going, I've got this problem, how do I solve it? And I'll never give them a solution, but I'll show them some ways to kind of figure it out. Or, if someone's struggling with the way they feel like they're eating too much food, I'm not going to turn around and say, well, for your first meal, you should have chicken and broccoli. Your second meal, you should have chicken and broccoli, because that's boring as fuck. And no one wants to maintain that every single day. And they won't. Because if you travel, believe it or not, you can't get chicken and broccoli at every single restaurant you go to. And, it's just not realistic. So for me, it's, if they're struggling with how much they're eating or they can't control their food, then maybe it's implementing a strategy like intermittent fasting. That's going to give them a kind of strategy around eating. Intermittent fasting isn't a diet. It's just a way to eat. And it kind of, if it suits that person, then that might come in handy with them. So it's about giving them the right tactics and strategies to be able to tackle the things in life that they deal with every single day.
I like that. Like it's that's amazing, because so many personal trainers out there are so fixated on those 8-week programs, 10-week programs, and I guess they kind of want them to go off the rails a little bit, so they come back and sign back on again.
That's the whole cycle, right? It keeps them in business. And I think for me, I've always said, if you ever rely on a job for money, it's a job. It's no longer a passion.
And it's short term. Yeah.
Well, you've got to, I love what I do, and with me educating my clients on their lifestyle and how to change it and how to tweak it to make the best versions of themselves. I ask them what their budget is. If they can't afford to pay me that month, I say, don't worry about it. Because my whole purpose is all about helping people and being that person that I needed 5 years ago or 6 years ago, to stand there and kind of hold their hand through it and say, hey, everything is going to be fine. Like, I came out of it and I'm not dead. Like, this workout's not going to kill you.
Yep.
Eating healthy and saying no to a couple of drinks here and there or a couple of, donuts here and there is... But also, having a donut every now and then is not going to kill you. And you're not going to go backwards by having one donut. I think being able to find that realistic balance in everyday life. You can't say no to everything. And as soon as you cut out everything, then your body's going to crave it more and more and more, because that's all you think about. When you go, okay, I'm cutting out chocolate, that's all you can think about. It's like saying, don't think about a red shoe.
I'm thinking about a red shoe right now.
Yeah. That's all you can think
about it.
But that's all you can think about. Yeah. And it's like, it's a mental game, right? And I think for me, it's about finding that healthy balance. And, I managed to do it. Many other people, Jade manages to do it. You do it. Everyone finds that balance for themselves, but it's about helping them find that balance.
It's about education, and it's in everything that we do, and it's all around us. I think education for the win, guys. That's what I'm saying. Because we do it here at Luxland. There are so many businesses or business models out there like this or similar, but we're educating here. So we're making property millionaires every single month, and we're not doing it by taking their business and just running with it. We're educating them along the way so they can survive and they can go and make money for themselves. And we do it at the salon as well. Totally. We don't just do people's hair, and it's an education process. And I think that's where a lot of people are failing, or they don't want to put that effort in. Totally. It's too hard. It's like, I can just do this and make a quick win here, and not worry about, the real reasons why we do it.
It's like that famous saying, they say, educate your staff so that they can leave and grow, but treat them well enough so that they don't.
Absolutely.
And I think that for me is like the fundamentals of what I do outside of my normal job, which is making these people feel like they're in a safe zone. They are. They're talking to someone who's been through it, who's lived through it, and, is there to help them along the way. I'm not there to tell you what to do. I'm on call pretty much all the time. Like, I'll get texts being like, I'm at a restaurant, what can I eat? Or what should I eat? And I say, well, what are you going to eat? I said, what do you feel like eating? I'll never go back to them and tell them straight away what I think that they should eat. Yeah. Because if they're craving red meat, then
you don't want to take
have
it away
a steak. It's not going to kill you. It's, if you haven't had red meat in 2 weeks, then have red meat. Like, don't deprive yourself of anything. Just have everything in moderation.
Yeah, I love it.
I think that's amazing, that mindset that you have, because, like as Jade said, it's very similar to the Luxland model, where, you know, we're not just focused on one transaction. It's about the process, and it's about the educational